Here we are,
We are
about
indeed, yeah. Yeah,
opening to a new year and a new possibility and how to even find deeper connections and understanding.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I love that actually that the starting the new year, because we can start this anywhere, at any time during the day or anything else, but there is something about the new year, isn't it? And like new beginnings and just being open to possibility and seeing the opportunities. And for me, I'm
Fascinating.
really excited actually to see what unfolds from this.
What's striking me now in the very beginning as we're talking is the idea of renewing. That there's something about that reiterative kind of process that's contributory to how um, I notice, I become awake. There's something about returning to something that allows me to stay present. It's not like a done deal. I'm present now, because in the next moment I'm not. So I like the idea of, oh, once again, we renew ourselves. And the idea of the new year is really kind of apt in terms of, I think, what we're trying to talk about or explore. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think so. For me, I suppose it is a renewing, but it's also like a resetting because I'm coming back to myself. The more
Hmm.
I'm seeing, and obviously we'll talk about this some more anyway, maybe go into this a little bit more how we've seen things ourselves. But the more I'm seeing around the simplicity actually of how we can live with regards to not getting so caught up in the stories that we can tell ourselves, but with having this opportunity to reset, to allow our minds to settle into ourselves. I sometimes think of it as like sitting back into a cozy armchair, and it doesn't necessarily have to be cozy, but it's just coming
I like
home.
cozy.
Sorry, go on.
I like cozy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is. It's nice to be cozy, actually. Um, yeah, it is returning home. A lot of it. Starting to realize that that's possible, that there is such a thing. Because actually, for a long time, I just didn't even get that there was a home, or there is a home,
Hmm.
if you like. This presence, the the state of presence, but also just I suppose when I'm talking about settling into myself and reconnecting with myself, it is about coming back to now, coming to here and now, and being in the moment now, and all that that affords. And what, when I mentioned about the simplicity of it, there's because there's nothing really to do with that. I haven't got to get anywhere to do it or to go anywhere or it's just no, it's here. I'm here now. We're here now, exploring together and seeing where we go with it. And I think what I've been learning over the last couple of years is enabling me to do this now.
Hmm. As I'm listening to you, there was two thematics to this idea of coming back, I guess, home, being home. One, that it is possible.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a big notion. There's some place I can come back to and count on. That I say because of the words within myself. And the other thing is that I can always begin again. Nothing is, permanent in a sense. So there's always that. To me, that's the possibility. that I can always just start again. Oh well, I screwed up or whatever it is. Well, just begin again. And I think there's something very kind of liberating in that. And it's freeing for me because when I know, oh, no matter what's going on, I can just start again. It's kind of, it makes it kind of like, it's simple, as you're saying, and it invites something to show up that's not what I thought I needed to make happen. You know, I get, because when I'm getting lost in whatever I'm doing and then I feel, oh, it's not working, I've already gone down a rabbit hole of overthinking it, perhaps.
Yeah.
And it might be a lot simpler if I just come back and just take another fresh look. And in that new or renewed look, there's a quality to it. There's a feeling about that I think is what we're really trying to point to here. And I'm trying to not use the same old words of possibilities. That there's something that feels as a, oh, I'm free. There's a freedom in that. There's a quality of like I can go any which way, and I don't even know what that is. So I'm open. I'm curious about the adventure that could happen.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I totally get that, and I agree. What struck me as you were sharing there, you were talking then, was it is moment to moment. It is like this just being in the moment now. And it's not, I think at one time I used to sort of have this idea that, well, no, if I've got a plan for the future, or if there's, things I've got to take care of or whatever else, it's like I needed to get caught up in my head to sort it all out. And of course by that I would leave I would leave this place of clarity, with of more of a settled mind, which is where clarity is. And also where, I know sort of saying moving away from like possibility, but it sums it up so well. It describes it so well that I have, there is so much freedom here that this is where anything really is possible, you know, where we haven't, the more I get caught up in my head, the more I get caught up in my thinking around something, the more I move away from here. I move away from
Mm.
the connection with myself. I move away from the clarity. I move away from, I think, having with peace with mind, even actually. And I move away
I'm going to get a
from,
little,
yeah, before you,
yeah, and,
like,
and,
I
and I
move
think
away from this wisdom that I have because it's all here. And I lose connection with it when I'm caught up and I go back to my old patterns of thinking.
yeah, what's striking me right now is the quality, the nature of this here-ness. And what I was getting struck by was that we're talking about freedom, and yet there's there's already coming along with the word freedom an action to take that I'm free to do. That almost like there's an allowance that I can take any action I want. I'm free to do that. And yet, well, two things are coming up with that. One is that if I'm coming from this place of here-ness, I'm calling it a place now, for lack of a better reference
Mm.
point, okay? In being here, there is nothing I'm planning to do that I need to do, that there is a doing that has any conceptualized forecasting, you might say. There's this isness of this being totally available. It's sort of like an openness where then an action may occur, and it usually will be an action coming from that alignment from this here-ness. So and I'm poking around here. It's sort of like it's like I can't forecast the action I'm going to take, but my being settled in this kind of presencing of myself being here, something usually occurs to me that almost compels me to then step forward or say something or do something. But it's not like I pre-planned it. And
Yeah.
what's striking me, to the extent that you're following what I'm saying, if it makes sense to you, is in that what comes out usually fits pretty well with what's going on. And that to me is astounding. And yet it seems to be that simple. So what we're up against here is this kind of striving, I got to do something, and yet you cannot not be doing, but it can't be coming from a place of predetermination that I've actually conceived of. That's kind of what I'm kind of touching upon.
Yeah.
At least that's what
And
was
and I
coming
think,
through.
yeah, yeah, I totally get you with that because I think, for so long, I almost had this automatic thing that I would go into my thinking to solve things. And what I'm learning and what I'm seeing for myself now is that if I pause and just start to listen to myself, we have these nudges, but I don't know about you, and maybe you can sort of come back to me on this, but for so long, for as long as I can remember actually until I started learning this, more about this understanding and how we actually work. For so long, I struggled with a lot actually, because I didn't see that, oh no, if I just pause and I don't know, I use trust sometimes, but I'm not sure that it's even trusting it. It's just I start to see for myself that when I listen, really listen to myself, I have this guidance. There is an inner guidance system. There is this wisdom within me. But because I'm so used to just going totally in my head and not realizing, not seeing that it's here with me all the time. It's part of me. It's who I am, this innate wisdom. It was actually quite alien to me. And I know that for a long time, and I know that sort of people say that it this wisdom can come through in spite of ourselves. There are many times I'm sure when it has done without me actually being aware that it has. So I can't really comment on that, but I can see that, yeah, it probably has. But I know that sometimes quite clearly there's been like a split second of something, like a nudge or something like that I've ignored.
Mm.
And I wonder now it's, oh, that was that sort of nudge. That's that wisdom just saying, oh, excuse me, just a minute. And I was like, no, no, don't worry. And I've just totally ignored it. So what I found when I started considering, say, oh, actually, no, if I do pause and start to see, yeah, I do get different ideas that come up. Not all that I've got to pay attention to, but new and fresh ideas that can come up from within. It's almost like it took a while to start, and I don't always know, but it took a while to start to notice them rather than just totally disregarding them. Because when it comes up split second, I don't even get to see really what it's about because I didn't give myself time to. I didn't pause to listen to it. But I know now that when I do pause, when I take a moment and just sit and okay, what what is there for me to see? Or um, what am I not seeing in this? There is sort of like several ways of asking a question, asking myself the question to prompt perhaps some new ideas to come up about something that I wouldn't have seen before.
What you're sharing now brings to mind, I guess, two kind of questions. One is there's something that you are at least um, appreciating that it's important to take a pause.
Hmm.
So something you've already entertained as a guiding kind of principle or concept. It's good to remember to take a pause. And I think that's a big, big idea because in the flow of my life, there's nothing out there telling me to take a pause.
Mm.
In fact, the world just takes me and I'm
Yeah.
running, I'm chasing after whatever seems to be the pull. And very often, most of it's is conditional. It's tied to a lot of habitual structures that we've been we learned well, you might say, growing up to adhere to. That is not necessarily true, but I've taken it for granted. I should pay attention to that. So I think we're lost in the world of the shoulding a lot,
Mm.
and it's very
Yeah.
subtle times. It's not like blatant. So that brings me to the second kind of thing I'm tying this to that was arising in me. One is to remember to take a pause. And then also, there's something about discernment here. Because in taking a pause, I think it automatically throws me back on myself, ever so lightly or very powerfully. I don't know. But something is returned to myself in that moment of taking the pause. But how much do I discern? Because you mentioned just now, that's why I was kind of thinking about this, about how getting this like little nudge there, but I kind of push it aside or I override it. And I think it's almost like because one, there's initial belief systems about how I need to move on and take care of this. In my case, a lot of it had to do with the fact that whatever thought I used to come up in me, I thought was important to pay attention to. You got a thought there? Okay, pay attention to it. Really? I do have to do that? So there's a that kind of thing. But there's this also the discernment between, well, what is it I am taking a pause into that I notice, I recognize? So I think at first it's so subtle that it comes up and then it's gone, but now it feels like night and day to me. So there was a kind of like progression, you might say. And that's why I meant before you started our conversation, there's something about the continual renewing of turning my attention that way. It's not a done deal ever. And but in that renewing is the engagement of being this in this life. So there's
Yeah.
something about staying so available to that and then constantly almost checking it out. Always go, what else? Okay. But there's a feeling. It feels different after a while. And I'm not there yet, but I'm getting a little more separation from that, of this kind of quality of being here as opposed to being there in the thought.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I suppose, yeah, it's maybe maybe a way of describing it. I don't know. Let's try it and see. Is like a dance between being on automatic pilot and being present, you know, of because like you say, there's a different feel to it's consciousness, isn't it? You know, and that whole thing really, I suppose, of the more present we are, the more conscious we are of what we're doing, of for me, of being aware of um fresh thought coming up as opposed to that regurgitated thinking that I can get into, that habit of thinking. You know, and ideas, thoughts will still come up with that. But I think it's a good point, isn't it? Because there's a difference between my habitual thinking and thoughts that will come up that I can catch hold of that for some reason I think are significant, that then I'll get caught up in and you know, and that cycle starts. And that there is a difference between that and having the clarity, I suppose, having the discernment, because the discernment, the clarity, I guess, may be two sides of the same coin in this, or even the same, um, of being able to
I have a
distinguish.
question for you.
Yeah.
I have a question. And you made a statement about making a distinction between presence and automaticity, as
Mm.
if they're different. And I'm wondering whether that's really true. And
Okay. Yeah. So
in that a lot of things I do are pretty automatic,
yeah.
and I still could be present to that. So I don't think presencing is negated if I'm in automaticity. I'm just I presence that, and in that being awake to the automaticity, I may know more how it works and recognize,
Yeah.
okay, that's cool. The body's digesting food. That's good. I still could be present to that without having to, necessarily diminish it because I'm not present. I'm saying there's something about life
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah. I
Life
get
goes.
that. Yeah.
And
And I think
um,
that's maybe that's the wrong word to use because yes, absolutely. We got like the automatic functions and everything that go on. I think for me it was more describe or what I was pointing or trying to point to describe was we just we go on like automatic pilot and we just for me anyway, I go through automatic pilot and I will it's almost like I'm asleep with whatever I'm doing. And for me, that's where the distinction was. So I can be awake, absolutely, and um, get on with my day. And yes, there'll be certain things that I might do automatically. I look before crossing the road. I do that automatically. I don't think about it. And yes, I can still be present because actually, chances are, if I'm not present, I might not realize there's a road there. That's possible. Um, so yeah, the maybe I used the wrong words in that respect. I think because it is more what I'm talking to, referring to is being asleep, going through the day, just in that sort of state of not not being conscious really, just so
I
caught
mean,
up
really,
with everything that I'm just not aware of any of it.
I'm playing around with an idea here about how significant or important or necessary is it to be awake. I think people I've noticed is some people walk around, they don't want to be awake, they just want to just do what they're doing. And that might be perfect, especially for them, but in general. And I think we are already doing what's necessary to be done. There's nothing I have to change about myself in order to make it better per se. But there's something
Mm.
about being awake that seems to allow that to feel better. And that intrigues me. So I'm looking at the idea, well, why do you want to awaken people? What's the necessity for that?
Yeah,
And in some ways, it feels good. It really feels good when I'm awake. And I think that's a great imperative by itself. And
yeah,
so that's coming directly from my experience. I notice when I'm present and I'm awake, there's more that seems to occur to me. There's a richness that can unfold. And so I'm interested in the multi-textured nature of this because we're embodied. This is who we
hmm,
are, right? As human
yeah,
beings.
absolutely, yeah,
So I have apparatus here, whatever it is, that kind of can reflect certain kind of possible ways of experiencing that makes life richer, right? So I don't want to deny anything about what either is caught up in the thinking or the perceptibility or this and that. And a lot of times it takes care of itself. That's what I'm kind of getting to right now. I feel like most of it takes care of itself. We stumble through this life doing whatever we're doing there, and somehow on a bigger context, yeah, you're doing what you have to be doing there. But I can be awake to it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then, of course, more things can occur to me that I didn't see because of that. So that's
yeah,
what I'm thrilled by, actually. It's why I'm hungry to stay in this way of exploring, because it's like it's endless as to what begins to show up. And I personally love the idea of an adventure.
absolutely, yeah, totally. I get you with that because it is. Well, I think it can be. Yeah, I used to take things so seriously, take myself so seriously, take life so seriously, and I still can. And I noticed the difference though, because one is full of tension and pressure, and trying to get somewhere to do something or to think something that I should be something or whatever, you know. The other is comes back to this freedom that we talked about, you know, that flow and
Well,
that allowing. But also, and I like the thing, you know, bringing you saying again the reminder really of we haven't actually got to do anything about any of this, and it's not a case of anything being right or wrong, you know, because you can get caught up in that, and certainly in the, you know, a lot of the sort of previous stuff that I've done, and there's been this idea of, oh, this is good, this is bad, this should be this way, or whatever, you know, and it's not about that. I think the being awake when we can notice things, you know, we can notice things, and when we notice something, it's like, oh, okay, you know, I've been caught up in this, or I've been doing whatever it happens to be. But in that noticing, even just with that, say, for example, if we notice we've been caught up, or if I notice I've been caught up in thinking about something, I might still carry on thinking it, even if I've noticed it, you know, but that's okay. It's just that I can, oh, okay, I'm doing that again. And it ceases to be, I think that's more recently, this is something that I'm starting to appreciate more and starting to see more, is that even in that, I don't have to do anything about it. I don't have to even, you know, I don't have to judge that. I don't have to. One of the things that sort of struck me is it's around like being stressed or anxious or whatever. You know, it's because I can be both of those at times. And rather than this idea, oh, I've got to fix it, you know, that discomfort that I feel, it's not so much because I think now, you know, the more I want to try and fix something, do something about it, the more caught up in I get anyway. And how we work, you know, the whole system is that it resets itself. You know, we reset ourselves, our minds will reset, and that just come from just noticing. Whether it happens straight away or not, you know, that's actually not down to me. I just notice and then as much as I can, let go of it.
well, maybe there's no letting go of it. If I notice it, I just notice it.
Yeah, I suppose actually it's a good point because letting go of it is these words again, isn't it? You know, and getting up this
It's
idea.
like
And it's not. Yeah.
I think there's a kind of imposed idea. Well, if I just relax, and that's all caught up in doing. Still, there's a subtle kind of effort
Yeah.
about
It
that.
does imply that,
We don't have
doesn't
to
it?
do that.
Yeah. No.
And his
No.
language is very, difficult that way because it's the language we use. We've inherited, and a lot of that has to do with how we have things, how we do things. So the language already is going to interfere with this presencing, this being. But you see, what's striking me, and it's calling to me what I've been noticing a lot more recently in the last half year, I guess. So I've been doing this deep dive of this kind of approach
Mm.
is um, I stopped trying to strive after creating all kinds of to-dos. My to-do list has gotten shrunken down, you might say. I mean, my inner to-do type of thing. I still have stipulated projects might be sitting out there, but it's not like I'm making a plan for that. As I said earlier on, it's more like um, it's after the fact. Even I have things I want to do. Want to maybe schedule appointments, but it's not like I need to regiment myself in order to get that done. I'm learning to, or I'm discovering that I could just say settled. If it occurs to me in this now, I got to do that. I do it. And so it's not like a pre-planning and their effort thing about the way I need to do it. But as a result, I'm noticing more space in myself in between these actions. It's like I'm sometimes sitting around and I'm saying, I'm not doing anything. Oh, it feels good not to do anything. Rather than what's the next thing I should be doing? And yet I've gotten more things done over the course of the day. So this is the thing that's
Yeah.
interesting is how I'm getting, I'm being accomplished in who I am, becoming successful in different ways. But I'm not vexing over that. I'm not even trying to make a plan to do it. It begins to fill itself out because of me staying in this kind of like place of just being settled. So it's that kind
Yeah,
of thing. And as a result, space opens up. I feel
it
more
does.
spacious around myself. And I think maybe that's what we're talking. I mean, we could dive as deep as you want to into the nature of this and all that, but I think we're trying to explore what the impact can be that's immediately available to us. And yeah, you gotta, there might be something you need to remember about this to at least check it out a little bit, but it's still in that noticing. And that was the other thing I wanted to say. I feel we so under appreciate the power of noticing. Noticing is not a full blown, I'm going to look at that, I'm going to see it. It's just an inkling of, oh, there's here. It can go deeper, it can open up more, but that's the second after this, the first noticing. But the
Yes,
noticing has all the energy to allow that to unfold. So it's really worthwhile to notice. Or I think
absolutely.
Elsie Spittle, I was reading her, she's always talking about seeing in the same way, I believe.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Again, words, isn't it? But it is that, or even having the intention to have the intention to notice something. Because we can't necessarily all the time, have we? But it's just like, oh yeah, if my intention is to notice when I'm getting caught up or when it's just okay, I'm more likely to because it's more on the radar, if you like, the inbuilt sort of radar that, oh yeah, and I'm gonna, and it's
Yeah.
yeah, but
I
so
think that's right. I think, but I'm telling you, the idea of the intention, and we make a big deal about it. And again, it's just an availability for. And then
yeah,
I notice.
yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and I feel, I think it's a powerful place for us to maybe uh, come to an end of this conversation, unless there's something more you'd like to add. But I think the power is in come back and notice, and then act if it feels right.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
It seems strikes what we've been kind of exploring together.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that that is a good place to end, isn't it? Because it is that the I suppose it's words, and I can still get caught up in words quite a bit, and words, the thing with
Only
words, of
you?
course, is that they'll always, the same word will mean something different to different people, So even when
But
we're using words to point, it,
but I
but it's what's behind it, you know,
yes, yeah. No,
it's
no,
what's
no.
behind it.
I'm excited when you're saying that. So I was kind of like almost jumping in real too quickly as I was listening. But there is something about I don't know how you framed it there. That way we interact with each other and the words we use, we're such accustomed to using words, doesn't mean that the word I heard is what the person meant, even. So there's an
Yeah,
invitation in that if somebody's willing and we set the right context to unpack, well, what is it you're really pointing to when you use that word? Because maybe I don't see it that way. I don't think so you get a chance where
yeah,
you then kind of come to some kind of connecting because we're looking at this together without incrimination, without judgment of right or wrong, but curiosity because the way you are using the word is relevant to how you want it, you need it to be for whatever that is. And if I
yeah.
wanted to know
What
where you're
comes up?
coming,
Yeah, what comes up in
it's
the
good to
moment.
slow ourselves down to see that. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. And I
it's such a
think it's
rich
the
place.
energy part. Sorry, say that again.
Yeah, no, it's a rich place. You see how we can begin to
Yeah,
unpack all that and keep going.
absolutely. And
And
but I think it's down to the energy behind it. As you were talking, that's what came to me on that is that where whatever I'm saying, whatever words are coming out of my mouth, there's an energy behind it. That there's a feeling, And I think a lot of the time, though, that's what resonates with people. So I don't think necessarily that it's because sometimes I'll hear something and I don't get it conceptually or I can't necessarily make sense of it. It's more like a deeper feeling, a deeper knowing that just really resonates. And I think that's what can really make an impact, actually.
So a question,
Yeah.
what kind of what kind of feeling you're having now about how we've been talking?
What a feeling of excitement, actually. Calmness, you know, but excitement and curiosity. This whole thing with the having curiosity, like a curiosity of a child, just to explore and see. And rather than think that I know everything, let me just see, be open to noticing, be open to see what comes up. What about for you? How are you feeling now?
It really what was tuning into is how I just felt lighter. I felt
Mm,
like, oh, it was kind of fun hanging out with you. There was a mood that felt more uplifting and open,
yeah,
and that's good enough.
absolutely. Nice one. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, it's been lovely having this conversation. And I'll see
Same
you
here.
again soon. Okay. I will.